Hey there everyone, welcome back to my channel. Now today with Final Fantasy TCG I want to talk to you guys about the experience I had going to Dusseldorf this past weekend for the Crystal Cup Ice. Now I had an amazing time and I want to give a big shout out to all of the staff for the Crystal Cup, everyone who was judging, everyone who was just doing the side events, everyone who was doing the stream. I want to shout all of you guys out, you did an amazing job and it was truly a magnificent weekend. Now before I get into anything, obviously I need to plug all my social media links, so do check out all the description box below, my Discord for everyone who wants to chat about FFTCG or anything else we talk about, Twitch if you want to come and watch me play various different games, or Patreon if you want early access to this video and many others that I do as well. So going to Crystal Cup, honestly it's over a year since I last played in an official Final Fantasy TCG tournament, which would have been Spring Cup in Paris last year, and I believe I have a vlog for that video somewhere in my YouTube channel for a while ago, but that was the last time I played in an officially sanctioned tournament, so honestly I was very intimidated going into it. To be honest, I got there on the Thursday and was picked up by my friend Joel, and a massive shout out as well to Joel and Nikki for putting me up for the entire weekend. It would not have been the same without you guys, and you guys looked after me so well, so thank you so much. So much. It meant an awful lot and I had a great time with you guys. And got there on the so I got there on the Thursday night. Friday we were playtesting, and I'm not gonna lie, come Friday night I was having something of a bit of a diva meltdown about what I was gonna play. I'm sitting there going, I'm terrible at the game, my deck's terrible, why am I bothering, I'm gonna shut my YouTube down, everything's rubbish. And honestly, I think I let nerves get the better of me. Because it's been so long since I last played competitively, I didn't want to disappoint you guys, being honest. I obviously have been working at Square Enix events for Final Fantasy TCG for the past year, so to go back onto the other side of things, and obviously being somebody who puts out content for FFTCG, I felt in my head that there is an expectation that's of me, and last year, like towards the end of the year, I won't name names obviously, but people were kind of saying to me, you're just for casual players, your content is great for casual players, but competitive players not so much. And I was really affected by that. I was quite hurt, because I was like, no, I do know how to play this game. I've been playing it since the day it came out, and I want to prove myself. And luckily this weekend I believe I achieved that. And I'm going to go over obviously the deck that I ran for Constructed, and then day 2 was Draft, and obviously I made day 2, so I'll explain how I came to the Draft deck that I have as well. But you know, it gets to Saturday morning and my nerves are shot to pieces at this point. I'm like, oh my god, I don't even want to do it. I don't want to play, I'm too scared. But anyone who has like these nerves or anything like that, I'm sure I'm not the only person that kind of thing affects. Just tell yourself to shut the hell up and sit down and play your game. It's just a game, it's not that big a deal. And I had to tell myself that numerous times over the weekend before we actually started. But honestly, every single opponent I played against was lovely. I didn't have a single issue playing with anybody. I was like really worried that people were going to laugh at me, think that I was a has-been, all sorts of things, but that didn't happen, and everyone was so accommodating and it was genuinely wonderful. So every single opponent I had, every single one of you that came up to me and chatted to me, it was wonderful because of you guys, so thanks very much. So for the main event, I decided to play Mono Wind. Now, Alex, a friend of mine who also happens to be world champion of the game for last year, came to my house a week before the event, and we were kind of going over some various different ideas, and he actually helped me a great deal in choosing what I wanted to play. So thank you as well very much for that. And we came to Mono Wind because I really like kind of value forwards, and I think that I wanted to play something that was very powerful but not necessarily visible within the meta. So I wanted something that isn't tier 0. This is me in general. I like to have a little bit of a hipster pick, but I'm also realistic and I don't go completely outside the box so that I kind of, you know, shoot myself in the foot and just play something that isn't very good. But Mono Wind has all the elements in place and to challenge a lot of decks in the meta, so I thought that it was a really good pick. I went with a Kane Senna route, as you can see on the deck profile I have on the right here. I went with Kane Senna partially because Kane Senna is very difficult for certain decks to answer, particularly Ice. There's not a lot they can do outside of Matthias to her. And not only that, but the Aran Senna and Ryaro Senna are very important in that deck because Wind absolutely has to get to 5 backups as soon as physically possible. So having a backup that searches a backup is very, very important. And you'll notice that I'm only running one Ryaro Senna and people will think, that's a bit dangerous, isn't it? And no, it's not really. Because your turn 1 should always, if you can, be Aaron Senna followed by Ryo Senna. So it's discard 3 cards, get those 2 out. The only way your opponent is going to be able to answer that is with an archer. So if you've got, and there's 3 archers in the deck in this deck as well, so if your opponent hasn't got an archer already, then you can play one of your own. And if your opponent does have an archer and it's their only backup, they're not going to want to waste it blowing up your Ryo Senna, because there's plenty of other plays in this deck because they need the resources for themselves. The last thing you do want, however, is for Ryo Senna to go over into your damage. So having 1 copy but 3 copies of the Searcher is very important. And if you get Ryo Senna in your opening hand, Aaron Senna can at least search for Kane Senna, so there's never really a bad time to play either of them unless you already have them out. And then I went with Aerith, Illyria, and all sorts of kind of the generic mono wind backups where, like, if you get an Aerith and an Illyria in your second hand after playing those 2, you discard 1, play Illyria, search Chelinka, then discard that to play, or discard a different card to play Aerith, and then you can dull 3 for a 3 CP forward. You know, the Chelinka that you just searched for example, and you're at 4 backups turn 2, and that can be really powerful. As long as you hit the ground running, this deck can carry you with momentum like there's no tomorrow. The weakness for this deck is generally early aggro, because if your opponent is coming at you really, really hard and fast with sort of a lightning deck, which, you know, I came across a couple of lightning decks, and I was actually on a feature match for my round 4, which I specifically didn't want, but I knew was going to happen anyway, because I was worried I was going to embarrass myself. Luckily, I didn't. And, you know, he was just going crazy at me, turn 1 and 2, and I'm like, oh god, this is the worst possible thing that can happen. But luckily, I managed to turn it around, and it was all fine. So the deck in general just wants to be able to get Yuri and get as many uses out of Yuri as possible. But there's some of the kind of the techie picks in here. I've only played 1 Echo because I'm also playing a copy of Arya from Type 0, who honestly saved my backside multiple times throughout that day, on the back of the fact that no one reads these cards. The number of times where I'd have a Zidane and my opponent would have, say, a Zidane or something like that, you know, or something 7,000 power and just attack me, and then I could go block with Zidane, he takes 1,000 less damage. It's really good, and because a 4 CP backup that draws a card or adds a card to your hand in this deck is actually better than most 2 CP backups, because you just want more backups in hand. So if you don't have that, then you could kind of read Arya or Echo as a 2 CP backup that says when it comes into play, discard a card and draw a card, and that's just filtering through your deck really quickly, so you'll get to the backups as soon as you can. So honestly, I ran one of each of them because I wanted them to have different names, and so that I didn't get cloggy. Normally I sit there and I go, you should never run more than 5 sticky backups or anything, but in this deck I actually run 6, and that's because I don't care what those backups are as long as I get to 5 of them. Preferably I would want Alhanalem, Aerith, Ryo Senna and Aaron Senna to be 4 of them, but past that I really don't care what they are as long as I get to 5, because once you've got 5 you can start playing Kane Senna for free, Bartz for free, Diabolos for free, you get 2 uses of Yuri, or 3 if you have a Bartz or a Vata or all sorts of things in your hand. There's so many combos that you can do off of 5 backups in this deck. It's so important to hit that number quickly. I mostly opted for consistency when it came to playing the mono wins. Like, I've noticed a lot of people when they play Y'shtola tend to only run like 2 copies, but honestly the card is so powerful and it kills itself that I thought, well, 3 just makes sense to me. Similarly with Vata, I wanted to have that activation as frequently as possible, and if I drew another Vata I can just swing in with Vatas and not worry about it, because a lot of players are going to be too scared of blocking Vata, even with something bigger than him, because I could just play a Yuri and then Alhanalem it, or I could play a Chelinka and finish it, or a Barbariccia. There's loads of plays that you just kind of want to... The reason I like this deck is because there's a lot of mind games involved in it, and that's the way I play best, is when I'm playing against the player, not the deck. So, you know, making it so you're like bluff playing, almost like a poker game, I guess. So you're just kind of trying to get cheeky bits of damage in. You might not have anything, but your opponent doesn't know that. And there were numerous times where I did attack with, say, Vata or Chelinka, and they think that I have some answer to it, and then they take the damage, and I actually don't have anything at all. It does actually work very, very well. Archer, definite 3 of. I think that backup destruction is one of the most underrated things in this game, because people just don't think about it. But denying your opponent resources while you can still set back up, if you've got a 2 CP backup in hand and Archer is one of your 5, dulling 2, breaking an Archer to break their backup, and then dulling the other 2 to play the 5th backup again is actually very powerful, because it puts them behind you, and it means that they're discarding cards when you're not, and that can actually win you games in the long run. Looking through my deck list as well, Moogle I really like because I don't want to burn out too quickly, and not only that, but it's actually the best thing to play after Vata. If you're not playing a Yuri, for example, the costs that you're paying towards Yuri are actually very important as well. So say you have 3 backups out, or 2, then discarding 2 cards for Yuri isn't actually a bad thing, because at worst you can draw a card. It's not the best thing to do, obviously, because you want to be at the full potential, but you can do it. There were games where I played Yuri much earlier than I should have done, and it actually worked out for me. Then if you've got 3 backups, then discarding 1 and dulling 2 means you're not going to get Yuri that turn. So basically what you need to be doing is analysing at what points you can use Yuri. So at 2 backups, you could discard 2 and play Yuri, but you'll have to dull him for his effect. So you won't be able to, like, if you block, you could do it in response to a block, but you can still use it. And at 3 backups, you can discard 2, play Yuri, and you can use his effect, but he's still available, so you can still block with him. At 4 backups, discarding 1 and dulling 2 is for a 4 CP. Anything is useful. And then at 5 CP, you just go crazy. So, for example, you can go, because he's considered all elements, you can go dull Yuri, dull 2, get an effect like dull and freeze, the biggest threat, discard 1, then play Bartz or Carne Senna, or Bartz preferably, because then you can activate the Yuri. So then you can dull 3, and then the other 2 and Yuri, and you're just getting multiple uses of Yuri. If Yuri gets more than 2 uses in a turn, he spirals out of control so quickly. And then you start factoring Alhanalem into that as well, and then you start going really crazy and just dealing damage all across the board and just pinging everything until it all dies. And then, you know, Minwu's not an issue for you, because I know that was something that somebody brought up to me. It's like, what do you do if a Minwu comes down? It's like, well, I archer it, or I ignore it, and I just play big guys that overpower theirs. It works out very, very well, and Arc is actually something that's really, really potent in this deck as well. And I had this discussion with Alex while I was building it, but I've come to the conclusion through his advice as well that he's kind of just better than Adele, because if you play him, you're going for the 7th damage win, and that's when you would normally play Adele, unless you're trying to go really early aggro. But then, because she's 3 CP, you're discarding cards a lot. Whereas with Arc, you're doing it at the last minute. You can use the power boost to your advantage, which I did during my stream game. And you can also just kind of discard, if you've got 4 backups, even going discard 1, play dull 1, play Arc, dull the other 3, my Stola can't be blocked, or my guy can't be blocked, that can't be targeted by abilities. It's like, well, you have to have a summon in your hand or you're dead. And if you have an Stola out and you're attacking with a Zidane that can't be blocked, there's nothing they can do. Unless they have 2 summons to kill your Zidane, which is very unlikely, there is very little that you're going to be able to do against it. So remembering the matchups that I had throughout the day, I remember that my win ratio went win, win, loss, win, loss, loss, win. So I went 5-3 by the end of day 1. So they were mono ice, mono ice. The second game was ugly, really ugly, because neither me nor my opponent had backups, really, and I started my game with 3 Yuris in hand, and that was really fun. But, you know, well-timed Aerith draws and things like that helped me throughout that. And then I played against Windwater, which I lost against because its value was just too much heavier than mine too early. And then I played against Lightning on stream, which was, you know, it was hairy, but it was good. It went well for me in the end. And then I played against Wind Earth. Ah, yes, Wind Earth is a really good matchup for this deck, unless they're playing Emperor. I sat there, I had a Yuri, I had 5 open backups and an Ishtola out, and I'm like, this is fine, I've got this. Plays an Emperor, and I'm like, girl, what do I do? There's nothing I can do here. And I'd used Chaos already. And what's worse is that I'm the person that recommended Emperor for that deck because of that reason, because it shuts down Yuri and Ishtola, and I shot myself in the foot by recommending it because it cost me a game. But at least it works. And then round 6, I believe, was Ice Water, and then which I won, and then round 7 was Mono Lightning again, which I lost. Sorry, no, other way around. It was Mono Lightning, which I lost against, and then Ice Water, which I won against. And then that put me in 26th place, and it all worked out, 26th or 28th, I forget exactly, so don't read me if I've gotten that wrong. But it was within the top 32. And honestly, that was a great feeling to know that I can still play this game. Like, I even posted that on Facebook, and I'm like, yes, I don't suck at this. I do know what I'm doing, I promise. And I wanted to prove myself more than anything. That was the most important thing for me this weekend. That's why I travelled so far to do it. And then day 2, I was playing in draft, and small secret that's not really a secret anymore because I'm putting it out all over YouTube, but I have done a lot of research into drafting for FFTCG, but I've never actually done it. And I've done a lot of drafting in Magic back in the day, so I know how to draft, but I didn't do it specifically for this. So I spent the night before really researching all the different cards in Opus 7 and what's useful for what, and I came to the conclusion that Lightning Water would be very strong on the back of the removal suite that it has for Leviathan and Ramu. And then you also have Red Mage, which is a common that most people might not think to draft because it specifically asks for Lightning and Water CP, so maybe people weren't drafting that. And luckily, on the actual day, people were handed. Like, I got 3 X-Death in my draft deck and 5 Red Mage, and you can see with the picture on the right what my draft deck ended up being, and it was really good, really strong. I was very happy with what I drafted. The triple X-Death was nice. I would have liked to have gotten a second copy of Tidus, because Tidus X-Death in draft is absolutely foul. Where you go, I mean, I did this in multiple games, where I would have 4 backups out, and I'd play a discard Tidus to pay for X-Death, bring the Tidus back in, and then use his effect to bounce the X-Death back to my hand, so that I had basically an immortal 9,000 power guy, and that carried me for ages in multiple games, and I ended up going 3-1 in draft, and I played some very good friends. Jose, who was in Worlds last year, I loved playing against him. He was the only person I lost to, but I really loved playing against him. We were both kind of like, oh, we're going to have to play against each other now, aren't we? And it was kind of, you know, no one wants to knock out friends, and, you know, I lost, and I'm happy to lose to that. But it was just a lovely day, and then it turned out that I'd come 10th out of 147 players. I think it's 147, again, don't read me if it's wrong. But it was a lot of players, and I was very happy with my result. I believe that I had proven my worth as a Final Fantasy TCG player by not only topping the events, but also doing very well in the draft as well, so that I could prove that it's not always your deck build that carries you. You have to be able to play it. And, you know, I had taken a large amount of time where I hadn't been able to play in tournaments because I'd either been working or I hadn't had anybody to play with. Loads of people who have met me in person know the kind of problems I have when it comes to playing the game. And I mean, I love playing the game, I just need people to play it with, and that can prove problematic. But honestly, it was a wonderful weekend. I had such a great time. I got loads of casual games in. Loads of people were asking me to sign stuff, which is still weird to me, and I mean, it's lovely, really lovely, that people think that I'm like somebody that they would want signing their stuff, but to me, I'm like, why would you ask me to do that? I'm nobody special. So it was really humbling, and like, I got a sneaky peek in the Twitch chat while I was on stream, and everyone was really supportive and sort of rooting for me. So honestly, the thing that I came away from this weekend was the community is amazing. You know, it's very rare that we get anything negative happen in our community, and I love everyone for it. You know, you guys made my trip, made my weekend. Whether I'd done really badly or realised my own fears, or whether I'd even done very well, it didn't matter, because I had such a good time with everybody that I was playing with, and I just want to say, I know I've said it a lot this video, but thank you all very much for being as supportive as you are. So that's going to be it for this video. Thank you all once again for watching this video and for being so supportive throughout this weekend and for the channel in general. We haven't got long now till Opus 8 comes out, so there'll be plenty of videos coming up, but I'd like to hear from you guys as to what videos you actually want to see. So whether you want to see some tips on drafting, or some new, just new decks or anything like that I've come up with, because I've actually been very inspired by a lot of cards that I saw at the weekend. Like, I've suddenly fallen in love with 6 CP Agrius. I think she's very cool. And I want to run more with Light Yuna as well. I think that card is extremely underrated in the West. In Japan, it's extremely popular, and here it just isn't. So I'd like to experiment more with her. And then, yeah, that's going to be it from me. So let me know in the comments below what you think, and don't forget to check out all the social links in the description box below, as I said. And of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for the channel. So thanks again, and I'll see you all soon. Bye!